Waitresses of Reddit, what's the most ridiculous request you've gotten from a customer at your restaurant? Early 2000s. Working in an Italian restaurant, this one cat insists he needs lime juice for his meal. As we're an Italian restaurant, we don't have any on hand for our menu items, but the bar should have some. Thinking out loud, I mention that the kitchen doesn't have any, but the bar throws those into bottles of Corona, so I might be able to get some there. Customer, are you going to charge me for that? Me, no, I think I can get a garnish for you. So I come back with the lime, and he looks confused. Customer, where's the Corona? Me, I'm sorry, you said you wanted the lime. Did you want to order a Corona as well? Customer, yeah, I want one. You said you wouldn't charge me. Leading into a back and forth wherein he's upset I didn't bring him a free Corona with his free lime, because he misunderstood me. I've had an older gentleman ask me to smile, so he could see my teeth. He told me I had really nice teeth, and looked like I took care of them. He was with his adult son, who then apologized and informed me that his dad was a dentist, but has Alzheimer's, so he didn't mean to be weird. I was a bartender, but I certainly had my share of ridiculous requests. The weirdest was a woman who would come in on her lunch break from the Sprint store nearby, and would drink a lemon drop martini before heading back to work. This was a fancy bar, and it was a $12 drink. She'd give me an extra $5 to swirl my finger around in the drink before she drank it. It was definitely a weird ex thing. One time I had a lady ask for a blueberry mojito made with tequila instead of rum. All other ingredients to remain the same. So this was a mint, lime, blueberry, sugar, and tequila drink. It's the single most vile cocktail I've ever made. She absolutely loved it and tipped me $20 for the drink. As above, it was only a $12 drink. We had one regular who was a horrible, gross old man. He would constantly request to be changed into the section of a particular waitress who hated him, so he could make XL comments to her. I would never honor these requests. F you, gross old dude, but my manager also wouldn't let me kick him out. F you, manager. One day he offered to pay me 3 cents to change tables. 3 cents. No. Had a former NFL lineman come in and order a steak. Very rare. How rare would you like it? I asked him. Tell the cow about fire, was his response. So yeah, he ordered a 16-ounce piece of raw meat. We briefly described what flames were to the plate after we set it on the table, and he thought that was hilarious. Working as a server, 17-ish, had a drunk lady ask to give her a ride home. I finished up closing out my section and gave her a ride because I knew the area pretty well. She was really nice and everything, but had a couple drinks too many, and her friends had already left a little earlier, and she was too embarrassed to make a scene or call someone. She gave me $50, and I was stoked. Some old woman got mad at me because I told her that I wouldn't substitute the side on her meal for another meal. Like she wanted $16 meal A, and for her free side, she wanted $18 meal B, but with absolutely no upcharge. She was like, wow, really? You're not going to do that for me? Are you serious? I was busy and didn't have time to play stupid games, so I just said no. I'm not going to do that for the price of one meal. You can order both meals if you'd like. She started up again until her daughter was like, Mom, knock it off. Bonus story about requesting only female servers. Another guy always refused a male server and requested a female one. If all of them were busy, he would demand the female manager wait on him. He was always busy, and he tried to play word games with us, presumably because he was lonely and miserable. He'd make up his own names for the dishes we served and refused to tell us what he actually wanted. One time I had him. He kept telling me he wanted a large bistro-style salad, something that's not on our menu. I was sick of it, so I said, sure thing, Frank, I'll go get it right now, and walked away. He was like, wait. Because he obviously knew we didn't have such a thing. I just kept walking and told my manager I wasn't serving him anymore. She went over and chewed him the F out in front of a full dining room, so that was cool. I haven't waited tables in about 10 years now, but I'll never forget the guy who asked for his steak dry. When I pressed him for what he wanted explicitly, he explained that he wanted no juice to come out when he was eating it. I told him it would take about 30 minutes to cook his steak that done. He said that was fine, and off I went. Our steaks were pretty miserable portions in the first place, and the cut he ordered was the smallest one on the menu, so when I returned with his tiny little 6 ounces flat iron that had been absolutely desiccated on the grill, he looked understandably disappointed. He took a few bites of it and decided it wasn't very good, which was underselling how bad it looked, and almost certainly how bad it tasted. Oysters. I explained we are a burger joint, no oysters. He takes off his coat, talks to his date, then stares at me for a second. Oysters. I explain again, no oysters. 2 dozen. Oysters. After a third and fourth time, where he barks an order at me, then acts all busy, so he can't hear my response, I stop and stare at him. He asks again. I just stare. He asks again. I just stare. He finally makes eye contact with me. Sir, we are a burger joint, no oysters. He is finally forced to acknowledge me. So go get some. We were in a casino. We were the only restaurant open at 2 AM. He knew this, but expected me to run around to some closed restaurant and grab raw shellfish that just happened to be hosting during closed hours. A mom and young son, maybe 8, came into the restaurant. I waited tables at for lunch. The mom asked her son what he wanted to eat, and he replied with ranch. I politely asked if he meant, like, a salad with ranch, or french fries with a side of ranch. The mom looked at me, rolled her eyes in embarrassment, and clarified he wanted a soup bowl full of ranch dressing. I walked into the kitchen and discussed with my manager, because I had no idea how to enter that into our POS system. My manager and I came to the conclusion that we should charge her for an entire bottle of ranch, so she paid $10.99 for a soup bowl full of ranch dressing. Yuck. I had a regular at my bar who spoke with a thick southern accent, always wore an Alabama crimson tide shirt or some variant, would only drink beers from the south, Naked Pig Pale being his go-to, which I kept in stock just for him, and would sit at the bar, bet the horse races, regale us with tales from his youth, get a little too drunk and leave, to take care of his mother. He was there every single day except Thursdays. He demanded we keep Alabama beer in stock and always wanted replays of old Crimson Tide games on TV. It got to the point I started downloading them into a drive and playing them for him, since ESPNU is only good for so much. We all thought he was crazy, but he was nice enough. This went on for an entire year. Our entire staff knew him, and he was pretty well liked. We had to ask him to leave once or twice because he decided to impress someone, or would win a couple races and start drinking scotch and get a little out of hand, but he was generally really polite and respectful. One day he just stopped coming in. One of the older ladies who worked at the track had his phone number, since she had the habit of saving him race books for the tracks he liked, so she called him a few times. Nothing. About a month later the police showed up to ask some people at the bar about him, if they might know where he is. We all told them what we knew, but apparently not a word of it was true. His name wasn't Scott, he wasn't from the south, and his mother had been dead for quite a while. Turns out he had seduced an older southern lady with his charms and wiles, created an entire life with her for her money, supposedly, then disappeared with the money and the lady turned up dead. Police said it was from natural causes, but the timing was so odd they still needed to find him to question him. He came back in for a single drink about 4 months later, and he left an envelope for our 3 bartenders he liked, and the lady who held racing books for him. $1,500 in each. I served him, and asked my manager at the time what she thought I should do. She asked if I felt uncomfortable. I said no, and since cops aren't great for business at a horse track we just decided to leave it be. I walked back out, and he had left, leaving a simply written thanks for being a friend on a napkin with $704.50 in cash under it. The $4.50 was for the beer and my rent, as he had asked about many months before in a random conversation, was $700 at the time. Dunno if he remembered, or if it was just a coincidence. He was gone, and I never saw him again, and his phone number is now out of service. I think about him a couple times a week at least. I used to work in a sub shop that had delivery. A woman called asking if the driver could pick her up a pack of cigarettes and baby for Rumler when he was bringing her food. This woman kept claiming she knew the owner, who was not present at the restaurant, and that he told her beforehand that it could be done. It was busy, and I didn't have time to fight with her, so I asked the delivery driver if he could do that for her and he did. Not really a big deal I guess, just a little ridiculous to ask a delivery driver. Also, asked the owner if he knew the woman. He does not know her personally but just knows her from being a crazy customer who orders frequently. I used to work at a private dining club and got the weirdest requests. One lady in particular that stands out. She wanted a martini with blue cheese stuffed olives. We didn't have blue cheese stuffed olives. I had to personally stuff each olive with blue cheese for each martini she ordered. She also wanted her salad tossed tableside, not a thing we normally offered. I had to get a bowl from behind the line, tongs, etc. just for this bee salad, and she wanted real butter for her bread and insisted that the salted butter we had prepped and piped into ramekins for bread baskets wasn't real butter. It had to be sliced cold unsalted butter on a plate. She never tipped unless it was a holiday. I also had a regular that would insist you sat and ate with him. Management complied but I think mostly it was because he came in at odd hours, like lunch at 3 PM, when someone was usually wrapping up side work and about to be cut anyway. He'd order for you both. He was a nice older man who loved to talk about the history of the town. I loved him. I often wonder what happened to him. He'd been coming in for years and years. You did have to dump the iced tea and make a new batch for him.